Well, hey everybody, welcome to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Students and Takers. This is episode 27, and I'm really pleased to be joined by a new successful Florida bar exam taker, Chigozie Nwankwo. Chigozie, welcome, and
Hi.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this has got to be an exciting time for you, huh?
Yeah. Now it's on to the bar job search now.
Okay, so ready to start looking for a job. That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Um, well, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your story and your background, how you came to be taking the Florida bar and where you went to school, that kind of stuff. Bring us up to speed.
Okay. I went to school at Florida A&M University College of Law in Orlando, Florida. It was a good experience. Graduated in 2 years, a little earlier, and then I took the bar. I didn't pass it. I used Barbary, and then I took it again, and then I was working and I got closer, but I didn't pass. And then I needed like a cheaper service. Then I found Celebration, and it was just better for me because I felt like it was Barbie was like a lot of information to take in, and Celebration really simplified everything.
Good. Now, if I remember correctly, Chigozie, you were only 2 points short of passing on your second try. Is that right?
Yes, I was 2 points on the overall, and it was like because my other friend told me she was 1 point, so I felt her pain, so now I had to feel the same pain myself. So
Yeah, that's pretty awful, isn't it? You feel like you're that close, and yet, you know, it might as well be 20 points for all, or 200
yeah,
points.
so close but so far.
Yeah. So, how did you emotionally kind of pick yourself back up and go back at it again to study the last time?
I realized I told myself I was rock bottom. I can't get any worse than this. So I just kept pushing. Just I realized I was rock bottom. I realized that you have to have faith in your God. He's your rock. So I told myself I was rock bottom, and that's all I have. So it can't get no worse than this. Even if I failed the third time, it couldn't get no worse.
Right.
That's how I felt. I'll probably just lose some money, but I'll make that back.
Yeah. I see a picture of the Pope on the wall behind you, so I know faith is
Yes.
important. Okay.
Yes.
So, and I'm a firm believer that God manifests us into people's lives at the right moment very often. And
Yeah.
so you came to Celebration Bar Review, and you and I didn't have a lot of communication. You kind of studied on your own. So why don't you tell people a little bit about what that process was like for you of studying?
Yeah, cause it was a little different for me, cause like it's my third time, so like I already had a bar coach with my school, and I have you, so as far as like studying, like I feel like I had a deep knowledge of the law, like I feel like I should have passed the first time on all the knowledge I had, but I was probably like an issue away on the essay,
Hmm.
so if you're issue away, like overall, like you have everything you needed to pass. So when I got a celebration, it was just really just honing in. Like it was just made things so simpler. Like just reading the essays for celebration is like a human. It felt like a human wrote it. Like when you read the other bar companies, it feels like a computer. Like so, it felt more like you could relate to it. You could put it on paper more. That's why celebration was better for me.
And how many hours a week would you say you were studying leading up to the July exam?
I don't know a week, but I can go a day. A day I was doing like, I started early. I remember you said start early is the best, so I was doing 6 hours a day,
Hmm.
6 solid hours. Not playing around, just 6 hours consistently, and then closer to the date, I would do eight,
Hmm.
8 hours.
Hmm.
So at most I would do is 8 hours because I remember when I first started bar, they were saying do 12 hours, and I was like looking at them crazy, like I can never do that. Like it's not realistic for me to do 12 hours of studying. So when you said six and start early, it's just more feasible. Everybody could do that. 6 hours, start early, and then just put in the work.
Right. And so you were following the syllabus, the study guide that we laid out, putting together step
Yeah,
by step.
yeah, yeah.
What was your mindset going back up to the bar exam? You said, I kind of felt like I'd been at rock bottom. Now you've studied again for the third time. You're going back in. What does it feel like to you? Can you describe that?
Yes, you have to like swallow your pride and start over, like, cause I had all this knowledge in me already, so I could have easily said celebration. I'm gonna skip this. I'm gonna skip that. I was like, no, I'm starting zero, ground zero, and work my way back up. I'm starting like I never studied for the bar before. I'm putting all my effort into this one, like I never studied before. Even though I had all this knowledge already from Barbary, and I brought it over with me, but I just started from scratch, zero.
Yeah, and I know that in some of our communication, you were really digging in. You were working hard to get through all that material, and you were asking some really good questions about, hey, I'm not quite sure I understand this, or how does this work, or how does this fit in. But the
Yeah.
one thing that struck me, Chigozie, about what you were doing is that you were, in fact, following the instructions. You weren't trying to remake things or recreate them. You were just saying, okay, if you tell me to do that, that's what I'm going to do. Um,
Yeah.
was that hard to do, or was that just a decision you made?
Yeah, I don't like people telling me what to do, but sometimes you have to swallow, like I said, swallow your pride, and this is bigger than you. You have to worry about your family and friends, and like get all the support you can. And like, I just, I just needed to know. I know this is what I wanted, so I just listened. I know you're the expert, you're the pro, so I just listened to what you said, and I got positive results.
Yeah. So, what was it like waiting for results? You've been to the bar exam. Now we're in that 6 week waiting period.
Oh, waiting for results is is just as bad as like waiting like for the bar. It's just like it's I don't like that period. It's too long, but like everybody keep telling you it's so long, but it's like 4,000 people take the test, so they have 4,000 people to grade. It's just like in the time they say stuff like do bar associations and network. You have to find things like that. Find a job like I was working outside of the legal field, and just you got to find time to make money and uh, can reconnect with friends. And it's a hard process waiting for it. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
long process.
And so, what was it like on the day when the results came out? Can you walk us through that?
The day I was in the hospital with my dad, so we couldn't really celebrate. But it was good. Long time coming. He always had my support from day one. He always believed in me and said I could do it. He helped pay for one of my tests, so he was the first person I could share it with, and that was a special moment.
Yeah. So you got on the computer from the hospital? Is that what it was to see
No, I was on
results?
my phone. I was
Oh,
on
your
my
phone.
phone. I was
Okay.
checking my phone all day because I remember the day they said it was gonna be at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. But I
They
didn't believe
lie.
that
They
because
lie.
I know from past experience it comes out in the morning.
Yeah.
So I was just on it, refreshing, and
Yeah.
it popped up that the results are in. And then I looked. I checked like 100 times because I thought the results were gonna change that I failed, but I just kept checking. I'm still checking today. Like
No, you
I just can't
passed.
believe it.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's real. You passed, brother.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so now you're in the job search phase.
Yeah, I
Okay.
actually have a job. I have like a short doc review project coming up. So, but you want something more stable, want something more like hands-on experience. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who's taken the bar and come close like you did and had to go back now and restudy? What would you tell them?
Um, you have to start all the way over. You have to commit. This last time I didn't work. I worked a little bit, like probably like throughout the whole period. I probably worked about 4 days. Like I didn't work. So I would have passed the second time if I didn't work, but I needed to work because you have to find your own. You have to base it on your own experiences. Like I have my family to help me, so I didn't have to work. So you have to just follow the instructions, follow the schedule, believe in yourself. You have to. That's what I was thinking. I believe even when I was in taking the test, I was visualizing myself with my arm up, like I'm taking an oath. Like even like I was always believing, like I was like you have to bless yourself, believe in yourself, believe. Like I believed I passed before I even had the results. But even though I didn't know I passed, like I wasn't confident that I passed, but I just felt like if I'm gonna be a lawyer, I have to pass this test. So that's my mindset. It was stay
Yeah.
positive. You have to stay positive. There's gonna be a lot of dark times, but you got to
Yeah.
stay positive.
Yeah, and I got that in our communication, leading up to the exam, that you were in fact very positive. Um, and this idea of feeling what it's going to be like when you pass, that sense of pre-visualizing, was
Yeah,
huge, right? I mean,
yeah,
you got to see that moment,
yeah. I was
yeah,
taking the oath. I was
yeah,
taking the oath. Yeah,
yeah, pretty exciting then when it starts to really come real and you go,
yeah.
whoa, and your
Like
family,
a
yeah, and your family must be
yeah,
really excited.
yeah. Everybody decided bragging about me. Like, yeah, it's crazy though. Yeah, everybody's happy. Like they say, I'm the first lawyer in my family, so that's a big thing, and
Yeah.
it's just everybody's happy.
Well, I think that the reality is that these days we need more guys like you, Chigozie, to be in the bar. We need fewer guys like me. We need more young bloods like you to come in and really make this a kindler and gentler bar all around the country. I'm really proud of you for gutting it out, for not giving up. Some people get right up to that edge and they can't make it, and then they're so devastated they give up. And you didn't do that. You
Yeah,
kept on working through. Um,
yeah,
and that's a great inspiration, I think, to a lot of people. I know folks that are watching and listening today are going to go, "Oh man, okay,
yeah.
I get that feeling." If you were talking to, old you, and saying, here's what it's going to look like when you get on the other side, what would you have said? How would you tell the old
Um,
you?
I would say the air is gonna be a little better. Life is gonna be better. You're gonna be able to have more. Probably you're gonna feel more important. That's what I would say. You're gonna feel important, like more important, because like you have to find something that somebody told me about being successful is that you have to find what makes you feel important.
Absolutely. Well, one last question I've got. You talked about how you were taking another bar review and then you came back and decided to choose our course. How did you find out about Celebration Bar Review and why did you decide to make a switch at that point?
Googling. I was just Googling everything, like private tutors, everything, Googling. And I was saying, like, the price that you pay for the big time bar reviews, you could say pay that same price to Celebration, like one of those personalized courses, and it's basically like a private tutor. They're gonna do the essays, help you with the essays, and I didn't have none of that. I didn't have no help with essays because it was easy because the essays in the book are good enough for me because they're so simple. Like it's easy to repeat repeat or understand it better
Mm-hmm.
than the other bar review companies. So I thought the Celebration just did a good job. Just that average everyday person could go in there and understand what's going on with all these different topics.
That's great. Well, Chigozie, I want to just thank you again for sharing your story, for being willing to be open and transparent with our audience today. And, I know I speak for everybody that's watching and listening and saying congratulations. This is a terrific accomplishment. We are so
Thank
delighted for you.
you.
Yeah, yeah. It's great
Thank
news.
you.
And look forward to seeing great things from you as a member of the Florida Bar. And so delighted that you were able to be part of our journey and that we could help you on yours. So, uh,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, thanks. Great to have you with us today. And for all of you who've been watching or listening, thanks for being with us on this Hangout. We'll be back again soon for another episode. And again, congratulations.
Thank you.